So what if your retirement paycheck would be more than just dividends? Do you really need to fight that battle between yield and total returns? Not really. In fact, if you want to retire happy, the only thing that you can do is to focus on companies with robust financial metrics instead of a robust yield. In other words, you want companies showing 5, 10% dividend increases instead of companies with a 5 to 10% yield. Why is that? Well, imagine that your retirement path is like hiking a big mountain. A few years ago, I hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. And what I wanted as a guide is somebody that was in shape, that knew what was coming, and that could face any challenges along the way. Those guides could be described as dividend growth companies. So companies increasing their dividend every single year. So they will be there for your retirement, and actually they will be there even after your retirement. So like a very good guide on the Kilimanjaro, they will not let you down at the most important moment. So how do you find those companies? Well, at Dividend Stocks Rock, I use my stock filter. The stock screener goes through more than 1,000 companies, and I can quickly identify companies with a strong set of metrics. So I start with a simple search looking for companies with a pro rating of 3, a dividend safety score of 3, so companies that will not let me down, and then I look for positive trends for earnings, for revenue, and for dividend. That will lead to a few hundred stocks, which is a lot, but it is necessary if you want to build a portfolio with 20, 30, 40 stocks, right? So now how do you do that once you have that list? Because you cannot buy them all, you cannot review them all, right? So you have to follow them by sector. So for example, you certainly don't want to buy all the financial stocks that you will find from the stock screener. Why? Well, if there's an economic crisis, you will get hit big time. So what is really important here is you don't need all 11 sectors, but you need to have a good diversification. Since there are opportunities everywhere, I suggest that you go with sectors that you fully understand and that you enjoy. So companies that are in the technology sector will tend to bring a little bit more growth, but could be more volatile. If AI and Internet of Things doesn't tell you anything, maybe it's not the right sector for you. On the other side, if you go for utilities, they will be more stable because we all need gas, power, and water, but they will not necessarily generate a lot of total returns. Depending on the type of investor you are and the knowledge you have, you can select 6, 7, 10 sectors where you feel comfortable, and then you can look at the best companies for each of them. So how much money should you put in each sector? Well, that really depends on how you want to shape your portfolio, but ideally, I like to not go above 20% for one sector. The reason is quite simple, is I just don't want to get caught in a tech bubble with 45% of my portfolio in tech stocks, or I don't want to be caught in a mortgage crisis owning 5 banks and then looking my portfolio melt down like snow during springtime. So we can debate all day on each sector and which one would be the best performer in the next 10 years. On my side, I just prefer to have several sectors in my portfolio so I can touch a little bit of everything and I'm not getting caught by the major market event that will hit a particular industry. Now, once you have your sectors and you have your set of stocks, it's important to dig a little bit deeper. One thing I like to do to create a strong portfolio is to look at what I call the dividend triangle. The dividend triangle is a set of 3 metrics. So I look at revenue trends, earnings per share trends, and dividend trends. It will tell me exactly what the company is doing right now and if it's doing well. Here's an example of how you can read a dividend triangle. So I've pulled out Apple's dividend triangle over the past 10 years. What you see there is the company goes through phases where there is no revenue growth. Why is that? Well, by digging a little bit deeper, you will realize that Apple goes through product cycles. In other words, they will go with a strong innovation, sell a bunch of iPhones, and then for a few years, it's going to be a little bit slower as they work on their next innovation. So once I understand the revenue cycle and if the company is able to keep on increasing their sales, I look at the earnings per share. I like to look at the trend of the EPS versus the revenue. In this case of Apple, I see that whenever Apple sells more iPhones and other products, they also increase their earnings accordingly. It tells me that they have strong pricing power and also a very solid margin. In other words, whenever the company finds ways to sell more of their products, they will also make more money. So what a company does when they make more sales and make more profit, well, they share the wealth with shareholders, which leads to the third metric, dividend increases. As you can see, Apple has been a steady dividend grower over many years because it's the results of a business growing their revenue, growing their earnings, and finally giving some more money to shareholders. With the help of a good stock screener, along with a good diversification across many sectors, you are in a better position to read financial metrics, understand the narrative behind the stocks, and start building your portfolio. At the end, you will probably get to 20 to 40 stocks offering a yield around 2 to 3%. So if you have $1 million invested, well, chances are you're going to generate something around $25,000 a year in dividend. That is definitely not enough for most people to retire on, and I totally get that. So here's the solution. You can sell some shares. But then you're going to tell me, but Mike, what happens when the market goes down? I don't want to sell shares at a loss because it's going to reduce my dividend and also the portfolio value. That's a pretty fair point. So the solution is to create a cash reserve on the side. Therefore, you will never have to sell shares at a down market. You will create your own retirement paycheck with a combination of selling shares, getting dividends, and using your cash reserve. If you want to know more about this strategy, I have a webinar that is coming up next week called Dividend Income for Life. In this webinar, I'm going to cover 4 topics. I'm going to debunk the myth of high-yielding stocks. I'm going to show you how to find high-quality companies. I will provide you with a retirement portfolio example, and we're going to end the webinar with the cash reserve principle and how you can create your own retirement paycheck. So register using the link in the description below. The webinar is on Thursday, November 28th. There will be a free replay to all registrants. So I'm going to see you there. And until the next video, don't forget to stay invested.